Hello, Brian from the channel Brian here, and I saw Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Much to my surprise, this does not seem to be a sequel to his previous Dawn of the Dead remake, which is good because I haven't seen it. The only of the Dead movie I've seen is Diary, which was 90 minutes that could have been more productively spent going around my house poking forks into all the electrical outlets. I thought, this looks like some good cringe. Something about all the promotional images looked like they were advertising a Las Vegas-themed Fortnite clone. Might make for a good review. It's also by Zack Snyder, one of the most inexplicably popular and influential directors of modern day because, putting it mildly, sometimes people are just idiots. I understand there's a nicer way to say that, and this doesn't happen a lot, but the more reasons people give to explain why they like him, the less I'm convinced there are alternative designations. But Army of the Dead, believe it or not, is an important milestone in film history. Doesn't seem like it would be, I know, but this marks the first ever instance where a Snyder film doesn't feel like high-fiving a bandsaw. Zombie media may not be quite as stale as it was around 7 years ago, but it's still a weird place to find your stride. Everyone's scrambling to add something new to the genre led to a little too much bloat. So while Army of the Dead breaks absolutely zero new ground, the simplicity is what ends up so refreshing about it. The entire outbreak is contained to Las Vegas and goes mostly ignored by the outside world. There's no riffraff about shelter and supplies and factions and societal collapse. Our team of generationally diverse heroes is actively making the zombies their own problem in the name of money, which adds character. If Army of the Dead's a sign of anything, it's that Zack Snyder doesn't deserve a blank check in terms of scope and scale. Because the setup is rather simple, that kind of prevents his usual cavalcade of disconnected, impulsive absurdity masquerading as sprawling myth. I cannot express enough how these little bits of restraint put on Snyder bring the best out of him. That said, I'm not giving the film unbridled praise. For one thing, it makes a terrible first impression. The catalyst for the outbreak comes at the result of circumstances so inane it's like straight out of a Mel Brooks parody. Likewise, the ending feels like it's grasping for a shock. It was headed in the right direction with a clever and funny setup, but diverted in the last 2 minutes and kinda dropped the ball. Both of these things are symptoms of Snyder's worst quality, the inability to help himself. While it's not as bad as his other films, in short sentence-long bursts, the dialogue is almost too stupid to function as a permutation of language. Also, Zack Snyder might be a decent director of photography, I just don't think he should ever be his own director of photography. There are several shots with intentionally bad focus and terrible motion blur, probably because the CGI backgrounds look really fake sometimes. But despite its fault, the accumulated charm gradually wore me down. I hate few things more in a blockbuster than blatant incomprehensibility, but the first act does a damn good job at being quick and to the point, which is weird because Snyder doesn't do that, like, ever. But as the characters became more familiar and the action kicked off, something weird started happening. I started having fun. You know, fun. Remember fun? After Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, and all these other stupid bullshit movies that purposefully withhold what you're there to see, I appreciated the shallow simplicity of well-done zombie action and tropes. See, even though the characters range from annoying to adequate, they are all at least unique. They have personality. You can tell each one apart based on the information about them the film's given you. Novel concept, right? Dave Bautista is the most famous person in the film, and it helps the film tremendously to have him as an anchor, giving these borderline no-names the room to experiment with their character. And genre fans will be pretty satisfied as well. It's not on the masterpiece level of social commentary like I've heard the good Romero ones are, but the gore is on point. When someone dies in this, they die. There's an extremely telegraphed character who only exists to get killed in the long run, but when it finally came time for them to die, I was still completely satisfied. Army of the Dead is not a brilliant movie. It was never going to be an indomitable classic, but I liked it anyway. It looks like we're starting to catch up to the delayed movies from last year, most of which, if you remember, I thought looked just so lazy. The plan was I was gonna review Spiral this week, but I was honestly so bored by it. I'd much rather talk about a blockbuster that's not a major player, but succeeds in its own little niche genuinely and entertainingly. Snyder's blend of zombie and heist movies is so fun you wonder why nobody ever thought to do it before. I give Army of the Dead a 6 out of 10. If you watch Cruella instead of this, I'm gonna go over there and shove you out a window. But anyway, did you like this movie more than me, less than me? Well, if you care to, please tell me. And if you like not only words, but the way I arrange and then say them, please consider helping me out with the algorithm and liking this video and subscribing to me, Brian from the channel Brian. Thank you, and goodbye.